All right, we are now going to go over the Microbiology Lab Safety. This involves the kit, so this is a really straightforward area. I do need to know if you uh, have any questions about this section. I don't want any problems. I have never lost a student. Well, I've never done this, but I've never lost a student online to an explosion or something going off or releasing a microbial agent that kills the world or something like that. We don't have to worry about that. But I just want you to know how to work safely. Uh, we really need to know when to use certain types of safety equipment in a microbiology lab. It's a philosophy. It's a certain type of etiquette. It's like golfing. I don't know if any of you golf. I abhor it, but anyhow, I at times I used to run a business and I had to go golfing with my executives and things like that. So I go out there and pretend I was having a good time. And there's certain etiquettes associated with golf. It's like between the putter, the guy who's on the green, and the cup, you don't walk in front of it. It's just one of those unspoken things. If you do, it could make the terrain uneven and the ball, could go somewhere and they end up taking the putter and, putting it around your neck or something. But for the most part, microbiology's got a huge number of things that are associated with etiquette in an aseptic laboratory environment. Like walking near someone that's engaged in doing an experiment or working with an open flame or Bunsen burner, or even if it's an incinerator, either way, to sterilize the loops and things, you don't walk by it and drag a huge vomite cloud behind you, sort of like Pigpen on Snoopy and Linus, or Peanuts, I guess it was. For those who don't know, that was back in my day. We had cartoons called Peanuts. Anyhow, uh, so you don't want to do that and drag contamination. It's just something you don't do. So if you have to walk by somebody who's actively engaged in a lab, you slowly walk, and so you're not dragging air, and you want to keep your distance. So usually, it's the same on par with our distancing that we do. About 6 feet is a good judgment and call. So that's just one. So I'm going to bring up those etiquette things as we go along, because a lot of times, believe it or not, when you do a job interview, they look for these aseptic type of skills, and they may set up a situation that you're totally oblivious to, as far as, well, they wouldn't do that in an interview. Yes, they would, and they want to see how you handle a certain situation that may unfold. And it's just one of those things that some folks do during an interview. So I just thought I'd bring that out. And then safely perform common lab experiments, and I'll just show you some of the things. It's like uh, if you're going to work around an open flame, you pin your hair back, assuming that you have hair, unlike me. I don't worry about that one, but for those who do, just you can get those little tie backs and things like that, and it keeps your hair from going in a flame. Always wear your goggles. Anytime a flame is on, your goggles are on. The rule of thumb is that you just look at the instructor, and whatever safety equipment he or she is wearing, that's what you should have. And so when you go into a lab, you just observe what's going on, and you echo whatever it is that the folks are doing, gloves, lab coat, and the glasses, then you need to be doing and donning those sorts of things. We always wash our hands before we put our gloves on, and then after we take them off. We wipe down our area that we're working with whatever the approved antibacterial or the septic treatment of some kind. And the idea is you clean your bench, and that's after you put your gloves on and have your lab coat on and that sort of thing. And so you're working in an environment that you know that at least you won't kick up a little bit of dust or contamination. It's all about minimizing the risk of getting your work contaminated, and also leaving a risk of some pathogen that may be just sitting there waiting to jump on you and attack you. But the idea behind safety is to prepare You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst, and you always do that. Long trousers, never shorts, close shoes. It's just one of those things. You do in the event that something bad happens. Now, in a laboratory setting, usually if you drop something and break it, you notify whatever the lab director is. It's just one of those things in safety. They have to record incidences and things like that. And in a lab like with mine, standard is you let me know and I clean it up. I'm the expendable one. But seeing how you're at home, you can get mom to do it. No, I'm just joking. You need to clean it up. But you got to be careful. If it's glass, you leave shards and things like that. You want to use a little dustpan and a handheld a little brush or something to clean it up and make sure, and then wipe it down with a paper towel with something a wetting agent. Just water would be fine. But what you want to do is leave any residue of glass or chemical. You want to wipe that up, even though you don't see it. You just have to assume it's there. Okay, those are the sorts of things that I'm going to be trying to get you thinking about as we move forward. So, of course, welcome to microbiology. We're going to be tearing into this lab and moving at full steam as soon as I get a good kind of collection of where we are on the kits by responding to that poll I sent around. And if you get a chance, please do that. It's important to make sure everyone has a lab. If you don't, then I'm going to try to do what I can to fix that. I don't know what, but anyhow. So microbiology. Now this is a great definition. Microbiology is the study of microorganisms. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Microorganisms or microbes include organisms that are too small to be seen by an unaided eye, i.e., a microscope. And so I just want to make it clear. I view the microscope as a unavoidable tool of a microbiologist. You need to know how to use a microscope, and I'm going to do everything I can in absentia of actually putting your hands on one, and then trying to provide some sort of microscope, a 3D printed, whatever, as I mentioned before, the best that I can, and get that to you. There's a lot of things we got to do, but we'll see how we get this done. So some samples way microbes are used in everyday life. You wouldn't believe how much microbes are actually involved. You go out and you see a cow chewing its cud on the side of the road. Well, that's microbiology going on. It's digesting the food for the cow, and it's breaking down lignin and some various things by breaking that beta bond and freeing up sugars. And a majority of our food, obviously, if we use plant materials and things as food source, we have to have our bacteria friends break it down. We have industrial applications, the production of acetone, laundry detergents. Believe it or not, some of the active ingredients are enzymes, and those are the more environmental friendly types of soaps and things that we use and put in those. Remediation, we have oil spills. We have bacteria that can eat oil. The Exxon Valdez spill, unfortunately, wasn't as successful with bioremediation because the water was cold, but they've since engineered the bacteria to be able to do enzymatic digestion even in the cold. And then other types of spills. It could be PCB and other types of things that bacteria can actually eat. The big thing I'm interested in right now is reading about. I don't know if you've seen the amount of plastics in the ocean. It's really embarrassing as a human being that we're such slobs. At least I speak for myself. Before I got married, as a bachelor, oh my gosh, it's embarrassing. But anyhow, we have that nature about it, and bacteria can actually break down plastics into waxes and things. Now we're engineering these things, so the remediation or bioremediation is becoming a huge area, and I'm very glad to see that. Louis Pasteur, of course, knows all about making wine with the yeast. He understood and studied and purified yeast, and he would have his own little microbrewery to fund his research. So the production of alcoholic beverage of various types, it's all microbiology. production of various foods such as bread, cheese, sausage, and soy sauce. So, just to let you know, uh, the bacteria that we have on our feet is actually used in a food product, and I won't disclose which one that is, but you think about it, it's nasty. Limburger cheese, okay, I said it. It's nasty, I think. Anyhow, the smell, it smells just like somebody's feet. Not, my feet smell like roses, but anyhow, you get the idea. Cheeses and sausages and various foods, sauces and various things that we use are all microbe based. So we do in our business and in hospitals and the like, we get to see the darker side of microbes, and we have to take that threat very seriously. Now, as I say, those organisms know how, and they know that environment probably better than you do in terms of how they infect and adhere and do all those things. So we're going to do experiments that deal with various potential disease causing organisms. We just sample the environment. At low numbers, it's not so bad. I mean, there's MRSA or methicillin resistant Staph aureus on your skin, on your face right now as we discuss this. And it's not going to eat your face off or anything, but in low numbers. But if we were to grow them and get higher numbers, it's risky. And we don't know the other aspect of how much they've evolved to acquire certain grow in your blood type of characteristics. But anyhow, we have to assume that they may do that. So we know that these diseases exist. If you cut yourself, those sorts of things, you're at higher risk. If you have health related issues or you've just coming off a head cold or something, you're more susceptible. You just need to be aware. Also, when you're cleaning glassware and the various things, we got to make sure that they are clean, but we wear the appropriate protection, and just the fact that we keep up with them being clean, that we're not introducing problems to ourselves. So wash your hands before doing any lab. Do not chew the end of pencils. I believe it or not, I still see that. I mention it. I don't make a big scene about it, but it's a habit. I used to work in a lab, and when I did things close, I held my breath. It's just a technique to minimize any potential sterile breach. And my wife mentioned that when I was looking at a book or something, I was holding my breath and I wasn't even aware of it. You develop certain behaviors like not touching your face that as a microbiologist you just incorporate into your daily routine so that you're thinking about it. And so touching your face is a biggie. Making sure your hands are clean, and then you work in a lab or something and you don't wash your hands afterwards, and later you forget, you're out of the environment, and you put your hand in your mouth to take out something or dog hair or something. Well, you just potentially could have put yourself at risk. So we just have to think about those things, and we don't, especially being at home, your guard's down, but actually we're going to use that to our advantage, because when you're working in a lab in various places, there's this word called complacency. We have to avoid being complacent. That, in other words, oh, well, nothing's happened, so, well, they're just, no one's seeing me, so, hey, I just get away with it. And then the next thing you know, I'm visiting you at a hospital someplace, you're ill, or they're thinking about amputating your nose or something because, hey, you got exposed to something that you shouldn't have. I don't want that to happen, and it probably won't. As I say, I've never lost a student yet in any class, but I've had some students get hurt. And in anatomy, I had someone get cut, and out of no fault of their own. But the thing is, accidents happen, and we have to be on guard that when an accident happens, you have your protective equipment on and you're in good shape. So what we're doing is preparing for, that scene that you weren't counting on but happens. And it's like, just know if you have a fire extinguisher at your home, if not, maybe it's time to get one. Just have something that's available in case something takes off. You may be using some of these chemicals and things in unusual areas. I choose my dining room table, and then I get cardboard from some box. You can go to Costco or someplace and get those big boxes and just cut it and put it on the table top and tape it down. It gives you a surface. It's usually I go so far as to wipe it down. Some cardboard you can do, some you can't. So you want a good surface. The reason is you don't want to ruin if it's a nice painted surface or stained. You don't want to cause any problems that you might get in trouble for. So or that you get upset about because that was a $2,000-3,000 table that you just now modified. So I'm used to it. I don't think I own a shirt that doesn't have a gram stain and smear on it or something like that. So you may want to wear your less than desirable clothes, or being at home, you can be in your nightgown, I guess, for that matter. But it's really, you want to dress for the occasion, so you want to go ahead and wear scrubs or some, just being professional as best you can. Uh, Closed-toed shoes, I already mentioned that. Read experiments thoroughly. Knowledge check. I have a general rule, going through these things. Well, um, it's obvious. I do want to make a comment about porous surfaces. The cardboard is a porous surface, and sometimes, I know this is weird, but I do even take events where I take a clear spray, sort of like a plastic spray paint, and I spray the surface. It gives me something. If you have access to a piece of wood, you can go to Lowe's or someplace and just put a piece of wood over the top, or even better, some sort of plastic, thin piece of plastic you can put on the table that's less porous. That would be great. Safety equipment, goggles, gloves. Now that's goggles, not Googles. Okay, I get a lot of that. Safety goggles. Um, and you may see things from time to time. I am dyslexic. I try to hide that point so I don't ever say that I am, but I am. And so sometimes you see some weirdities about that, but I've learned to deal with it. Gloves and the lab coat apron, whatever, and those are important. Safety shower. Well, obviously we don't have that, but you can use your sink. Sometimes kitchen sinks have the sprayer type, and just be aware. Same, you can use that sprayer type to wash your eyes if you got something in your eyes. Uh, Again, it's always a good idea to have a fire extinguisher in your home and make sure it's charged. If you don't know how to read a fire extinguisher to know if it's good or not, uh, you can always take it to a fire station. They will give you a tutorial on them and help any maintenance or suggestions about a fire extinguisher. I might not take advantage of it. They're there. They know about that stuff. Ask them. A laboratory fume hood. Well, we'll wait until you get yours installed in your home. Well, that's not happening. But we do use laboratory fume hoods, and I'm going to show you what those look like and how they're used later on. And then the biological safety cabinets, we're going to talk about just briefly what those are and what they do. But a lot of times we have to have things that are in there with write-ups as to what the chemicals are and how to clean up spills and that sort of thing. And I'm going to go over that. Autoclaves, really important as a microbiologist to know how to use an autoclave and what it is, and the different types. I used to teach at a different school and they didn't have an autoclave, so I used a pressure cooker, and I'd go out in the parking lot and I would heat it up, and I would run it like an autoclave. And now I guess I would be arrested for being engaging in terrorist activity, but nevertheless, you can do things other than real professional autoclaves. Go ahead and do the knowledge checks as I go through. I don't want to waste those to you. And please take the lab drill and go to that quiz and see how that goes. And then the importance of hand hygiene. Yeah, that's a big deal. And I know you may think that's strange or something like that, but it's not really. So what I'm going to do is convert this document that's associated with this and place that on the assignments area, and it'll be in Word, and so you can upload that through Blackboard. And I know I've been sending out emails about emailing. You can always, if for some reason the uploads don't work, and we've had some issues, you can email it to me just fine. I track both. It's a pain, but it's okay. It isn't about me, it's about my students, and I know everyone has a different speed of internet. When my wife is working, she's downstairs, she is an internet pig. Absolutely steals pretty much the bandwidth, and so I try to do the same. But anyhow, now that you might be seeing this lab workbook as it shows up. What I recommend using, if you have it, which you do as a student, there's uh, a better notebook type that I find very useful, and it's called Onenote. And Onenote, I just popped that window up, but you can cut and paste, and it's available anywhere you go. Uh, you can put all sorts of uh, notes you have over on this. You can add a section, so you have these nice little tab color sections, and then within there you can create pages, and then you can name them and that sort of thing. And what's nice is up at the corner up here you can share it. You can share it with me or others, and allows interaction. And it's a lab workbook that I'm looking at and evaluating for using in a regular the hybrid lab, the real type of labs that we have during lab, because it is a BSL2 and you're not allowed to write on paper and that sort of thing and take it with you. So we do have these little tablets, computers, and I was thinking maybe we'll start using this OneNote and see how that goes. But if you want to, you can arrange your lab workbook if you want to do that, to take notes and do that in OneNote, and you'll always will have it. As a student, I think you have access to it. So that is the lab, part 2, lab 2. The next one we're going to be dealing with is on the microscope. And because of timing and the like, I may go ahead and bring it up this week or the beginning of next, but I got to get that going as fast as I can. I think I might do it this week, just so that if you have time you can start going through that. And so that's where we are. That's the lab 2. Just take all the little quizzes and convince yourself that you know about safety, and we'll go from there. And I'll see you next time for the lab part.